Hello, hello to everyone who is joining us early. We appreciate it. We'll get kicked off right at 1:01 Eastern, 12:01 Central. So we're just going to be waiting here for a few minutes while we let everyone join, jump from meeting to meeting, come back from lunch or going to lunch, whatever that looks like in your schedule. So feel free at this time to find the chat section and let us know who you are, who you're from, or yeah, who you are, who you're with, where you're from. And are you going to be at NRF Protect here in Dallas next week? So I'm here in Dallas and we're going to bring you some warm weather while you're here, but definitely look forward to the entire show.
I always enjoy the interaction before the call starts, Julie. So I love the texts and the messages that start popping up. I will share with those who are joining us in preparation for the call. Chris and Laura and Julia and myself, we had a competition to see who had the best internet speed. And I lost. Who was the best, Julie?
That would be me. Yeah, I've got really great internet here. Somebody was saying that I have an echo. Is anybody hearing an echo for me?
I can hear you just once.
Okay, that's good.
Yes, apparently the internet goes through Julie's house.
Yeah,
So,
what was it, like 900 and something up?
yes, she's very
Yeah.
fortunate.
All right, let's see who all we have with us. Paul, nice to have you with us. Jacob from Meyer, nice to have you with us as well. Anyone else want to join into that chat, especially if you're coming to NRF? Want to make sure we check in with you and that we say hi while you're there.
Ohio in the
John, we
house.
got a couple Myers going on. Nice to have you with us, John.
Hello, Ohioan. I love it.
What part of Ohio are you, Laura?
I'm in Northeast Ohio, just south of Cleveland.
All right. We got some neighbors on the call today.
I don't want to say your name wrong, but I'm glad that you're here from 7-Eleven. If you spell it phonetically in the chat, I will try and pronounce it and you can tell me if I'm right or not. Nice to have you with us, Julianne. And Rich, very great to have you. Feedy? See if I'm right or not. Mark, great to have you with us. Perfect. Okay, good. Nice to have you with us, Tam. Yeah, for all of our presenters, I do that as well. I'm like, I want to make sure that I'm saying everybody's name right, and I'm glad that I did because let's see if anyone would have guessed. Half of you will probably guess Laura's last name right, and half of you will probably get it wrong, just like I did.
We can make that a fun competition too. We'll just
Right.
spell it out. So Jeter. Phonetically, how would you say that? We'll reveal it here shortly.
We'll kick it off with the big reveal.
Jeter. I know how I would say it. I don't.
Rich, you're correct. Laura does go by both. She said she wouldn't have corrected me, but because I'd asked, she let me know. All right, we'll get kicked off right in 1 minute.
Hello, Mr. Stafford. Welcome to the call. Representing Colorado, the great state of Colorado. You're welcome, Dave Stafford.
All right, it is 12:01 Central, 1:01 Eastern. I'm going to go ahead and kick this off. My name's Julie Lawson. I'm the Director of Partnerships and Business Development over here at the Loss Prevention Foundation, and it is my pleasure to host today's webinar. Today we have Beyond Visual Verification, Securing IT Buy-in for a Smarter Retail LP Strategy. Today's webinar is sponsored by Vector Security. Vector Security Networks is a division of Vector Security Inc., a top 5 integrator of physical security solutions and managed network services for North American retailers and multi-site businesses, including many Fortune 500 companies. Vector Security Networks serves nearly 90,000 national account sites across North America. Now, before I introduce today's speakers and give away Laura's last name, first, just to go over a couple of webinar logistics. Today's session is being recorded, so in case you need to step away, you want to share this with someone later on, have no fear. We will have this available on our website, as well as I'm sure Vector will also share that as well. But you can always come back and revisit that through your original registration link. Also, everyone was muted upon entry, so if you do have any questions, make sure to leverage that Q&A box. Lots of folks have already found the chat area, but we're going to go ahead and leverage that Q&A box because we will have time for Q&A at the end. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce today's speakers. Today we have Laura Jetter, Alan Waters, and Chris Brush, all from Vector Security. So with that, Alan, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you, and I really appreciate the introduction and the opportunity for the call again today. If we can go back one slide real quick, I'm just going to one slide back, please. Thank you. So just high level, I'm the sales director here at Vector Security Networks. Been with the organization for about 5 years, and in the industry for a multiple of that. That's what I'll call it, a multiple of that. Former practitioner, for those of you that know me, I spent about 30 years in the retail space. So it is a real honor to be here, and we're glad to be able to deliver this webinar here for the team today. And I'm going to pass the mic over to Mr. Chris Brush to introduce himself, and then over to Laura Jetter. Chris?
Thanks, Alan. Good day, everybody. Chris Brush, Product Manager for Vector Security Networks. Been in the security tech industry for a little over a decade now, plus some time in the IT MSP world. I'd like to say I have a reverse villain origin story in the sense that I started in sales. So I started on the dark side, and I'm saying that, of course, jokingly, because I'm with two of our sales leaders here. But that's where I learned the industry. That's the side I started on, side of the house, sales ops. Realized along the way that what I most enjoyed was talking tech, right? Finding that right combination of kind of device level capabilities, platform level features, and synthesizing that all into the most impactful deliverable, right? That we can get to the end users. So about 3 years ago, jumped over to product management and been loving it ever since. Appreciate everybody joining today. Looking forward to this.
All right. Thank you, Chris. And my name is Laura Jetter. It is not Jeter unless I'm in New York, and then it is pronounced Jeter. But I am here in Northeast Ohio, and I have been in the technology space since I was 17 years old. So I won't own to how long that's actually been. But in the managed services provider space, it's been a little over 20 years. Specifically with MSPs. And I've been with Vector Security now a little bit over a year. And I am happy to be here, and thank you all for coming.
All right, we can move on to the next slide. So again, Julie, thank you so much for the introduction and the overview. No one does it better than you. So I will be brief and kind of highlighting a couple things about Vector here, as you had shared with the team. I think it was a top 4 integrator. We might have on the slide here that we're top 5, but now top 4. We have 50 years of experience doing this stuff, and while it's not outlined here on this particular slide, for the sake of just a high level overview, it's intrusion stuff, fire, access control, video, managed network services with our leader here, Laura from the M&S team, and central station services. So that's a high level overview of the things that we deliver and the things that we support. Highlighted at the bottom of the slide there is that we do have our own company owned and redundant monitoring services as well. So just a couple of highlights again about for the company itself. And we can transition to the next slide if you would. And for those of you that participated in the call, and oftentimes you do a wonderful job, the audience at large, at joining the LPF webinars, I just wanted to take a quick moment and recap what we did in our last LPF webinar, where we highlighted some of the features and benefits of visual verification programs and shared the strategies that LP professionals should be considering beyond incident verification. So we've done a great job, I think, as an industry, understanding the value that is added and doing a verification, what I would define as more of the forensic or investigative processes. We spent a lot of time in the last call really talking about the things that were beyond that. So we're going to transition in today's call, and in a couple of slides, I'll be passing the baton over to Laura to talk about the IT piece of it, but it's moving beyond the verification and into execution. And when I talk execution, I'm really specifically, while we'll go a little bit beyond this in the presentation today, we're really going to focus on getting IT buy-in as a part of that execution. If you would please transition to the next slide. And in the last webinar we did, again, it's kind of revisiting some of the content from that previous webinar. Historically, and just to kind of caption this at a high level, we've, as an LP industry, operated in a space where we focused on the reactive side of loss prevention, forensic and investigations, and using the platform for what I would say traditionally security features. And just highlighted, I'm not going to read through the bullet points themselves, but we've transitioned to a world where video has become intelligent, and we should be leveraging that accordingly. I promised Mr. Chris Brush, who is certainly our incredible tech resource here on today's call, but when I talk about, and I'm certainly going to him included in a couple of these slides, but when I talk about leveraging the technology and how it's advanced over the years, maybe I just give it to you, Chris, for a few moments here to highlight some of the things that are happening in the industry today.
I think we're seeing a evolution right now, markedly so, from, as you said, a reactive, even business intelligence harvesting mechanism into a proactive one, where we've got the precision now from an imager standpoint, from a chipset standpoint, a computer vision model standpoint, to kind of separate and compartmentalize what we're looking for in any given scenario. And the accuracy with which we can do that, the confidence levels now with which we can hand an incident off for remediation, for whatever sort of response is required, is pretty impressive. And we'll get into a little bit about how to do that responsibly today. But I think as a general theme, definitely worth reinforcing.
That cues it up really well. I just commented in the messaging here on the side. Laura, I don't know if you invited all your neighbors, but Ohio is really well represented on the call today. So good job, Laura, and the state of Ohio. You can transition into slide 7, please. So before I do turn the call over to Laura Jetter, highlighting some of the things that retailers should be considering in today's world, maybe beyond just the video verification. And we went through a lot of this stuff. We'll be brief. We'll be brief on this because we really do want to focus about on the IT buy-in aspect of launching these kind of programs. But guard tours and virtual patrols, video intelligence, and applied analytics, and I think that there's probably a call queued up, a webinar queued up for the future for VSN and for all of you, where we can get into and expand that in great fashion when we talk about the applied analytics, the advanced analytics, operational insights, and improving efficiencies in response, and then remote operational and security audits. Again, this is kind of some of the stuff that we've talked about historically. This is stuff that we should really be thinking about from a security aspect and a LP leader aspect, starting to partner within our organization and the different functional groups, and strategizing so that we can launch these platforms. So again, we're not going to get into the details of this today. The primary focus was when we do come up with the ideation and some of these solutions, and we've vetted out what we want to bring to market with our organizations, how do we get the right buy-in within our organizations to advance that cause? Chris, anything to comment on this before we do pass it over to Laura?
I think with the nature of flexibility of analytic models now, the way that you can manipulate what you're actually looking for, train models in specific scenarios for specific things. there's a level of freedom, a level of creativity that just hasn't been possible, at least at mass market scale before now. And so, certainly we're going to suggest templates, solution types that, perhaps are more familiar. But I'd like to make the point to say the sky's the limit. We can definitely dig in and build out something that might be an atypical or just otherwise rare use case that you have in mind. So don't hesitate.
And for anybody that might have missed it when we first started the call, there's two pieces here, both in Laura's introduction to the team, and then as I highlighted who Vector is and what we bring to market. I'll just kind of be a little bit redundant. So Laura is the director of our managed network services team, and I think probably not very traditional from an integrator standpoint to have the level of support and level of expertise that we are very, very fortunate to have at Vector. We have the subject matter expert here when it relates to IT processes and supporting those platforms. So it is my honor to pass the presentation along to Laura, and I'll let her take it from this point. So I set the bar pretty high there for you, Laura. I know we're going to have a lot of fun with this, and very, very excited about the content that you're going to share with the team.
Yes, thank you. I'm very excited to be here and talk about, I love to talk about M&S. So let's get
Managed
into
network services. There you go. Okay, you can transition to the next slide if you would, Julie, please.
it. Okay. Turning strategy into action, what do you need? How do you take your vision and turn it into reality? So it's basically having the strategy, right? And the internal alignment is critical, and I'll get into that a little bit more into the next slide. But the next conversation really does start with IT today. Most of the applications and things that you're using in loss prevention nowadays, they run on the network. So the conversation with IT is inevitable. So I'm here to help you today to help you have those conversations. What are they going to want to know? What are you going to need to say? How do you get on the same page with IT and become their partner, and instead of their adversary when it comes to loss prevention? So I think we can transition to the next slide. There we go. Okay. So why does it matter? It matters because they're a major stakeholder in the outcome. And you want to be a true partner with them. So, as I mentioned before, security systems are now extremely more sophisticated and leverage cloud applications to bring you the latest and greatest technologies and create a more agile security system. And that means relying on your network infrastructure to get there. So the best way to get buy-in from IT at a very high level is, make sure they're part of the process by bringing them in early and collaborating with them when network demands are part of the solution. It's critical to get them involved in the conversation and make sure that they know that you're addressing their needs and what their stake is in what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. So in order to do that, you need to know what are their concerns? What are the things that they're going to be asking of you and of your vendors? And, some of these, some of the major ones here is the security. I think that's going to be first and foremost on any CIO or CISO or anybody in the IT industry is, how is this going to be secure? Bringing in an integrator that can talk about this is paramount, because if you can't get past the security, and I know it's a little bit of an oxymoron, the security system is going to introduce security interest, but that's the way it is. That's the world that we live in today. I don't know if any of you, the cameras are an IoT device, and I don't know if any of you remember the Target breach back in 2013. It was probably one of the first IoT device type of breaches out there, and they actually gained access through their HVAC system. Nobody wants to be the next target, both figuratively and literally. So security is going to be a big question. The next is the integration. Does it require another dashboard that needs to be monitored? Does the vendor have the skill set to integrate with their IT? These are going to be big questions on their mind, because they're going to want to know how is they going to be involved? How taxing is this going to be on them? Which brings me to the next point, which is ownership and support. Who's going to own this once it's been implemented, once it's on the network? Who's going to support it? Is this going to be one more thing that they have to use their resources for? And resources today in IT are already thin. They're already running on razor thin budgets, and minimal amounts of people. So they're going to want to know who's taking ownership of this, and what's going to happen when something goes wrong? Who's going to be there to fix the problem? And then the last, but certainly not the least important, is the network performance. What's the impact of putting these devices and putting this video equipment on the network? You say video and network, and people in IT, they already start thinking something's eating my bandwidth. I'm not going to be able to run my other applications. This is going to start eating away at that bandwidth. So those are going to be questions that they have. How are you going to address those issues? And there's things that we can do to help alleviate those concerns, and help with the health of the network as well, to make sure that security is an issue, integration isn't an issue, support isn't an issue, and performance is not an issue.
Yeah, just if we could, before you move on, like, I just love the
Yep.
context of the way that you shared that first part of that, Laura. And I know that we have a panel conversation and some Q&A queued up, but boy, when you caption that and say, like, security platforms are actually introducing a security risk, it really just kind of resonates with me that the IT partners and the dialogue that you're introducing to them isn't necessarily to get permission to, and it is in large part, but get permission to get on the network. But this is not a ask forgiveness, not permission type world that we live in when it comes to these kind of risks. Is that fair to say? And what we're really trying to do is speak their language. What we want to do from a department standpoint, if you're the LP leader or an LP practitioner, you want to get in there and introduce this so that they can ask you and maybe translate their concerns, and we can translate our objectives and be on the same page early in the process. Not maybe what has been perceived in the past when I was in retail, of getting their buy-in from a decision-making standpoint.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're going to talk about that a little bit later on too. But yeah, I mean, there is a language barrier that people have between the loss prevention and between IT. And, I think that the biggest concern is that you are sensitive to how this is going to impact them, that you're not making these decisions in a silo. And by bringing them in early, going into the conversation, understanding what their concerns are going to be, and having done the prep work for that and being prepared for those conversations is going to really position you very well to gain their favor and to get their attention and to get them on board, so that they're not walking in thinking, okay, how do I keep this from getting on my network, to, okay, how do we partner together to make this work?
Yeah, and I realize I'm taking hostage here a little bit, but I just and it's not always scripted, right? Like, I just love to jump in and have a little dialogue around this, and I'm going to bring Chris into the fold a little bit. But the other piece that comes to mind on this is that as we do introduce these conversations and we vet them out with our important business partners in retail, it has astonished me, and over the last couple of years, how advanced our partners have become, our manufacturer partners have become, and equipping both ourselves or being able to speak intelligently to what we do proactively to mitigate some of the concerns that our IT partners in retail, our customers, are going to have. So I think we're getting stronger and stronger as an industry at that all the time. So we should absolutely introduce ourselves and be part of those conversations early with confidence as well. And Chris, I don't know if you want to comment on that just real quickly, but from an IT standpoint and security protocols and making sure that we're living up to the standards of which IT people would expect, is it fair to say that the industry at large has grown immensely in that respect?
Absolutely, I'd agree with you. You had mentioned speaking IT's language, and to me, that triggers the vernacular around device management. Which, if you followed certainly the major manufacturers, but even computer vision software providers, device management is a key consideration now. Uptime generally is really important for visual verification programs, especially in obviously mission critical or life safety applications. But good device management gives you that uptime, at least a huge leg up in attacking whatever level you want. And then speaking of managing and reducing the attack surfaces that LP systems can become, device management in the aspect of cybersecurity updates, firmware updates, if you're on top of that through whatever platform you end up choosing, or end up working with your IT team to help manage, that's going to make them your biggest fans right off the bat. If you can start talking that language early in the process, oh my goodness, are they going to start getting more enthusiastic? And it'll be pretty incredible, I think.
Everybody clearly understands why Chris is on the call now, and Laura, respectfully. I kind of knew the answer to that, but I have no ability to actually articulate that. So that's wonderfully expanded upon. All right, Laura, I'll stop my nonsense here and give the mic back to you. Sorry, I love what you had to share on this slide. So, well,
Yeah.
you got control again. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, thanks. This is a conversation, right? This is what we want this to be. This is why we have a panel, so we can talk and we can interact and answer questions and bring up these valid points. So no, I appreciate your interjection there. Okay, so we will go to the next slide, and we've introduced a poll question here for you. So what we want to know here, I'd like to know, when you're trying to move an LP initiative forward in your organization, what do you see as your biggest challenge? Right? Is it getting buy-in and alignment from other departments? Maybe it's communicating the value outside of your department. So loss prevention, but maybe you have trouble articulating it to everybody else how important some of these things can be. Or is it navigating the infrastructure and the technical requirements, as we had talked about? These all of these security platforms are in the cloud now. They are network dependent. The network is now a critical part. So is it navigating that infrastructure, or is it all of them? Are they equally challenging for you? So we're going to give you about 60 seconds here, I think, to go ahead and lock in your polls, your poll numbers, and then we'll see what you think, and then we'll start the conversation from what your biggest challenges are.
Laura, all the way through grade school, maybe some middle school and high school, I got by just selecting, when it was multiple choice, B. So you've thrown four. You've thrown four in the mix here. I will just echo again what I say on every one of these calls. If we've got 70, 80, 90 people participating, we know your schedules are super busy, and you might have us on a monitor on the side. But ask that you stop multitasking for 2 minutes here and play along here. Let's have some fun with the questions here. Chris, you got a pick here, buddy. You got what do you think? What's your guess here? We'll have another competition. What's going to have the highest score?
My default on those multi-choice, where anytime you've got a group selection, all the above.
All of the above.
That got you by school. That got you through school, did it?
Passing at least, yeah.
I'm gonna go with. I think it's gonna be number one, getting buy-in and alignment from other departments, and we're gonna get into this detail a little bit later. But I'm gonna put even a little meat behind that one and tell you that I think it's because there are so many competing priorities in retail. So it's not just explaining it to them, but it's getting them committed to it. But Laura, you got to pick before we reveal the results.
You know what I do, Alan, and I'm going with you. I think getting buy-in, and the reason I say that is because I see that even, in my job here, you have your own agenda. Getting everybody else to get on board with what you need to do and what your initiatives can be a real challenge. And so I'm going with you on that one, Alan.
All right, you're on an island by yourself, Chris. Let's see what the results are.
All right, and the winner
Here we go.
is...
Drum roll, please. Ah, Chris.
Well done, team.
All
Your
right.
20s are already in the mail, everybody. Appreciate it.
And Laura, you and I weren't even, we finished last.
We did finish last.
We needed
We
a
did.
vote. We needed a vote, but I'm taking credit for some of the all the above. So I think that our question fits in that category.
Yeah, I think that's good, and interesting that coming in second is navigating infrastructure and technical requirements. I think that kind of ties in with getting buy-in, because you really need that buy-in from the IT team, from the infrastructure team, and the technical team. So and the great news is we have people here that can help with that. We have experts here. We have our whole managed network services team that can help navigate those waters through that. So that's kind of exciting for me to see that that's the second answer.
Yeah, and seven of you commented on that second category, and we'll get to a Q&A session later in the call. But I would encourage you use that comment section, in the messaging section. If you can share with us what some of those challenges have been, would love to hear your voice on the call, or at least see your messaging. All right, Laura, rock and
All
roll.
right. All right. I think if we advance to the next slide, we can talk um, about some of the challenges in getting that buy-in, and getting through those technical requirements from your IT team. So, as we mentioned earlier, LP and IT, we don't speak the same language. It can be hard to understand their needs, and vice versa. They don't really understand your needs. But getting their buy-in early, as Alan, you had mentioned this before, this is critical. Because the last thing that you want to do is have your solution defined and ready to go and out the door, and then somebody says, "Hey, hang on, did anybody run this by IT?" And then IT comes in and says, "Hey, I just don't have the confidence in this on the network. I don't know what it's going to do to our performance. I can't rubber stamp this. We need to do a deeper dive." And then the next thing you run out of time. You're into the next budget period, and they're pushing you off because they don't have time to dive into it and vet out their concerns. So get them involved early. Just they're going to have a voice. That they're going to want to talk about these certain things. So bring it to them. Don't make them come to you. And I think that's going to go. I really do think that goes a long way. You don't want it to impact your time. You don't want it to impact your budget. So you need to move to a more robust solution that supports scale and provides the latest and greatest technology to reduce the losses that are impacting your stores. In order to do that, you need the connectivity. So partnering with IT is critical. They're not the enemy, I promise you. They want to help you achieve your initiatives. It might not seem like that all the time, but again, as long as they have confidence that you are willing to listen and that you are considering their concerns and their needs, that's going to go a long way.
And I see some really really important call outs here. And again, we're talking to a group of loss prevention and security professionals here. I go back to kind of what I highlighted before, but when we talk about the infrastructure and the words that pop off the page to me here are when you have edge and cloud, or edged, or just cloud, and all the different variables that we can introduce to the end users today. I think it's so important to not just have that early dialogue and that conversation with IT, but again to bring in the professionals like Laura and Chris. And again, Chris, I'm teeing you up, buddy. Hey, this is a perfect time to just kind of comment on the fact that if we know your infrastructure and are talking to your IT divisions and you've partnered with them, I can't tell you how many times we've been on calls as an integrator in the last, whether it's a year or 2 years, where you see like that aha moment from the IT department saying, "We respect what you guys have done, and we understand it, and you're speaking our language. We think we can make this work." It knocks down barriers in ways, and hurdles in ways that I think are more efficient today than they've ever been historically. So, again, Chris, I know I teased you up there a little bit, but did you want to add anything to that?
Well, I think that is kind of a gatekeeper type conversation to have, where once you're invested in that fashion with them and you're getting them more enthusiastic, more comfortable about the initiatives that you're launching. In my experience, at least, that does open doors, right? I'm thinking right now virtualized resources, which I think are making a bit of a comeback. Once you've gotten the IT team on board with that, they're chomping at the bit in most cases to better leverage those sorts of things. So VM, virtualized GPU resources. I think those sorts of things are so understated, but are more willingly offered than you might think. You just got to have those conversations.
Yeah, and I actually think the opposite is true as well. If you're not bringing them into the conversation and you're not addressing those issues, then you're going to have that door closed pretty quickly, and pretty swiftly. So I agree with both of you on those points.
When we get this recorded session out to the team and to all the attendees, some of them might share with their IT departments. They're going to be so impressed that we're advocating for an IT partnership. So this is exciting stuff. We'll let you keep on rolling, Laura.
Right.
So this one was really for me and probably Chris. Again, I'll lean into you a little bit here, and Laura, please feel free to jump in. And just a graphic, and I realize that we're being a little repetitive on this, but it is holistic. I go back to my a bit of a storyteller here, but I go back to my retail days in Sports Authority. And for those of you that are leading LP programs on the call here, I think that this will resonate really well for you. Some others might have experienced this at a regional level or otherwise, but you have a seat at the table. And I remember it was a monthly basis at Sports Authority, and then when I was at Stage Stores, very similar. You're all competing for the same capital projects. You're all competing to spend the same expense dollars. And there are multiple stakeholders that you need kind of in your court or on your side, and it's a vote in a boardroom or a meeting room that ultimately gets your initiatives passed through. One of the things that I figured out fairly quickly in that process was that if I didn't have my business partners, and maybe we're talking about something like a video verification program, if I didn't tie in my HR partners early and teach or educate that individual, so it might be a one-on-one meeting with the HR leader, to just make sure that we're aligned on what I'm trying to accomplish, then I didn't have their vote in that boardroom. If I didn't do the things that we were talking about from an operations standpoint, and we get into some of that dialogue that we talked about last time on the last webinar, what are some of the analytics that we can bring forth, and what is the return on investment of those analytics? What would we get from a video verification program, and how would it benefit our operators? And I can be redundant, repeat this relative to risk, and then today's call really is so focused on how to get IT buy-in. So having these stakeholders in one-on-one conversations and demonstrating, well, one, deliver your use case and build one and have a return on investment, but then to have that dialogue with each one of these stakeholders before you get or seek executive buy-in is so paramount important. So just kind of tripling down on that a little bit, and again, this is all educational based with our partners through the Loss Prevention Foundation. Hopefully, again, this resonates with the team at large, both for current practitioners that are up against these kind of challenges, and those for you that are growing your careers and will be presented with these kind of obstacles. Chris and Laura, anything before we transition to the next slide on this one?
Yeah, I can build on that by saying, in my experience and the way I conceptualize the industry, LP leaders, you all are the masters of cross-functional team collaboration, right? It's the sort of thing I feel like you're doing all the time. I'm thinking back on my meetings with LP leaders and my list of takeaways after the fact, and my action items. My list normally looks something along the lines of item 1, nerd stuff; item 2, nerd stuff; right? Item 3, yet more nerd stuff. And I look across the table, the LP leaders. Your takeaways involve collaboration with 3, 4, 5 different leaders from different departments, different disciplines, right? Facilities, finance, HR, legal, of course, IT. And so I think you're already doing that. It's just visual verification is a bit more of a weighty deployment than most, right? You need a stronger level of engagement, stronger level of maybe endorsement, than we're used to asking for, at least. And so I like to think of visual verifications deployments not necessarily as a project, but more as a program, right? It's not just a set of one-off deliverables. Hey, we're upgrading those cameras, or this storage bucket's going to expand. It's going to become a kind of a living, breathing type contribution of LPs to the day to day of the organization, right? And so I think kind of casting it in that light does help folks kind of mentally frame it out, or frame out their own involvement at least, as alignment first, not necessarily getting dug into the complexity, into the minutia, right? Let your integrator, let your IT folks deal with the system's complexity. LPs interfacing with the other teams should be based on kind of transparency and maybe people level operational preparation, that sort of stuff.
That's wonderful. All right, Julie, I think we got one more slide before we get into some of the panel stuff. But again, how to approach those internal conversations, lead the business or lead with business value and operational goals. I think that kind of stands true for just about everything in life, right? We got to have our goals, and in order to achieve them, we got to be able to define them, measure our results, and quite frankly, pivot and change along the way. But it really starts by that business value and having your goals outlined. Involve stakeholders and get executive sponsorship early. And this is before the decisions are finalized. And again, I'm going to echo this. It's both the winnings or the wins that I've had in my career, and quite frankly, probably better life experiences have been the failures. And I think it's been echoed, and we've kind of gone through this a few times during this presentation. You all have heard it as leaders in the industry. When you don't have those partnerships, the level of effort, and you're kind of pounding your fist on the desk saying, like, I know this is the right thing. I know this is the right thing. But if you don't have executive buy-in, it is bound to fail somewhere along the way. So anything relative to projects that you're running and capital and expense spends in your organization, the earlier you can get all the stakeholders on the same page and have that executive buy-in, the more successful you're going to be. I promise, I promise, I promise that's the case. And then as a part of that, get in front of some of those challenging questions. Hopefully you're not addressing the objections at the tail end of a project or an initiative. You can get them on the table early, and that's healthy dialogue and growing. It's healthy dialogue and resolving and delivering a better product. And then focus on practical guidance and shared outcomes. And I dare suggest that it was a little trick that I had in the bag as well. When I was in retail, is that I definitely wanted to manage my managers and manage my team, but I wanted my colleagues in the industry to have the wins. And so when you've got those shared outcomes and the entire organization is celebrating them, all the more likely you're going to get a little bit more money to spend in your department and to run your initiatives and hit your KPIs. And hopefully at the end of the day, add value to your organization, and certainly add some more credibility and value to the LP team at large, the asset protection and LP teams. So I'll pause again. I think I've probably emphasized this strongly enough, but Laura, Chris, anything that you would add to this particular slide as well?
I don't know that I have anything to add to the slide, but I want to just kind of add a little bit more color around addressing these objections openly and clearly. I mean, I will say that from the sales side of things, and this is what we're doing, right? We're really selling what it is that we need to other people, right? So from the sales side of things, I tell my team all the time, do not be afraid to handle the objections and get them out of the way early. Talk about them. Talk about some of the things that, hey, we think this might be an issue. We think that this might be an area of concern, so that we can get addressed. Again, this kind of goes back to, you don't want these initiatives falling apart in the 11th hour. You want to get all the objections out of the way early. I can't stress enough how far that goes with getting these things over the line.
When we get into the Q&A, and again, I encourage you all to put some messaging out there. What are some of the objections that you've heard historically? I think it was one of the technical aspects of this was that number 2 answer, right, behind all the above in our survey. So be sure to share some of that. That would be wonderful. And I think with that, unless Chris, you have anything to add to the slide, we can go to our panel conversation. I got a few questions that I've got queued up, and would love to get your guys' feedback on those. And then we'll certainly take any questions from the audience.
We can jump on. Thank you.
All right, so I'll probably I know, and no one would be surprised on the call here, but we typically script a couple things and queue them up for the team members, and I always like to have fun. I forewarned both Laura and Chris. Probably going to make up a few of my own questions along the way and throw you some curveballs. So we'll see if I can catch a swing in here. So Laura, what internal roadblocks do organizations face most often? And Chris, you can certainly weigh in on that as well.
Well, I think from an IT perspective, I think that a lot of that again has to go with that security, the support, and basically what are the expectations and the concerns out of security, out of the security and the integration. But I do see that is from the little over a year that I've been here with Vector, I do see that as the biggest roadblock when we are selling things, when like visual intelligence, when they want to bring those types of things into their organization. That's usually where it starts.
Yeah. I would love to, and again, I'd love to hear some of the participants on the call today, just message out there. But I'm going to give a little bit of my context from my retail days as well. I think competing priorities, and I mentioned that a little bit earlier, is a massive roadblock. So in retail, unless there's something that is truly maybe a regulation or a law that passes or something that has been identified as critical infrastructure that needs to be supported, you don't typically get what I would describe as kind of like maybe a third of the way through the year and have executive management and all your sponsors of all your different programs say, yeah, we listen. We hear you, Alan. Like there's value in visual intelligence and some of the things that are happening in our video platforms. What you often get is we have so many competing priorities. Why don't we put that on the back burner until we have capital time for next year? So you end up waiting until November, maybe September, October, November time period while leaders are building their capital budget. And I share that experience because you really aren't just going to the table in October and saying, hey, I would like this X dollar amount for next year's spend. It is so important to knock down those barriers and hurdles throughout the year and advocating for what your platforms can do before you get to capital time so that you create some excitement, some knowledge. You've got an ROI associated to it. Again, I take you back to that experience of that's that meeting in the boardroom in October where all the decisions are getting made and every department's fighting for the same money to spend next year. And if you truly believe yours has greater value than others, start that campaigning early is what I'd suggest to the team. It really needs to be advocated throughout the entire year in order for you to secure it for the following year. Next question was, where do LP and IT teams tend to get misaligned? Chris, do you want to try to tackle that one? Now, where's some of the misalignment that happens with the technology?
That's an interesting question. I think that the platform level considerations are going to be something that these days especially can get convoluted real quick. When you're talking all the bolt-on software services capabilities now that you can bring to bear, it's not just a single lift and we're putting this new widget in place. There's a lot more to it, in particular for good sophisticated visual verification programs. And so I think that LP teams can perhaps maybe scare IT a little bit with the vernacular employed, with the number of vendors even for a single transaction that might need to be involved, right? That might need that cyber audit, all the rest. And I think that if you can work on clarity within the context of what is each widget going to do and how is it going to interact with the platform and the rest of the network in as simple a fashion as possible, you're going to be doing yourself a huge service.
Yeah, that's perfect. And again, I'm going to piggyback off of that. I think sometimes from a misalignment standpoint is that we can get overwhelmed from an LP standpoint. So, and again, I'm going to put myself in that seat and share with the group here that it's so easy to have maybe you're dealing with the edge analytics on a platform, or perhaps you're using the cloud based or server based. Even to begin with, kind of the idea of like where are things living to begin with. But then we have our wonderful manufacturer partners, and I say that not facetiously. I mean that very sincerely. They have so many offerings that they can bring to the table. And as the LP leader or decision maker, it would be a mistake for us to say, let's go to our operational partners and let's go to our, maybe to our IT division and show them that these cameras, these video platforms can do 55 different things. For anyone to be able to digest and wrap maybe an initiative around that would not be realistic. So I think one of the things that you could be really well aligned with is to know your business partner's needs, know what's going to satisfy or scratch that itch, so to speak, and identify the three or four, limit them to what are really, really good use cases, so that you can set clear goals, set clear measurements, and set clear returns on those goals along that path. So in today's world, the technology is just blown up so immensely, it can be confusing if you just kind of bring in the whole shop and say, here's what my video platform can do. It's what you need it to do, not what it can do. And I think that's really, really important to have that alignment with your stakeholders within your organization. So, Chris, I like that. I think you answered the beginning of that one like it was one of those curveballs I promised you. It was kind of one of those curveballs I promised you. What helps internal conversations move forward more effectively? And I think I might have leaned into that one a little bit, but we'll let you complement that one a bit as well.
I think you got the ROI side of things here, which is, as you mentioned, an extremely important part of the lead up to any of these initiatives. But I don't just want to focus on, maybe the raw math of ROIs. I think there's other ways to articulate that to leaders within the organization. And really what I'm talking about here is some of the maybe personal level impacts that we can be dealing with, some of the fear and trepidation about having our property targeted, right? The stress and that comes as part of the aftermath of those, the cleanup, the remediation, all of that. At the human level, those outcomes are meaningful, right? Dollars and cents aside for just a minute, it should be an easier conversation than most to go to HR, to go to some department leader and tell them, hey, LP is going to help you reduce the number of kind of anxiety-inducing fear factors that our folks are dealing with on the daily, right? And I'm not just talking about physical security here. Of course, that's a big part of it, but professional responsibilities, I think, are a big stressor too, right? Ask one of your facilities managers, would you rather walk through a kind of a dark, spooky alley at night, or would you rather have a surprise OSHA inspection, right? If we've got a good ongoing visual inspection program, using tours and virtual tours and our surveillance systems and other tools to ensure policies, procedures, standards, and compliance and whatnot, I'm sure all of that's buttoned up. Now, maybe those facilities folks would answer that poll question in a slightly different way, maybe just a little bit more balanced. So I don't want to understate that aspect too.
I wouldn't have picked either of those two answers. I didn't like either of the options. I'm going for C. Okay, Julie, do we have any questions that came in through the channels here? Anything that's on your radar that you'd like to throw out to the team?
Yeah, absolutely. So there were a couple that either I had or that had come in during registration. I think one that I had though was when retailers are trying to think about their next year's budget season, how are they making sure that this type of technology would stay as a priority and isn't getting pushed for another competing priority? And Laura, I think that might go to you.
I can certainly help with that one as well. Laura, I'll let you maybe you can
Why don't you
start.
go ahead and take it, Alan? You seem like you have an answer. So
Yeah. So
I'll let
I
you go
think
for it. No, and I'll add some color at the end. How's that?
yeah, I love that. So I might have answered that a little bit to begin with, but and again, I just go back to the real life experience, which is retail's chaos. It is just, and being in retail and being a leader, and part of the LP, the support system of your retailers, it's chaos. And quite frankly, we kind of treat it as such sometimes. And we're putting out fires, and we're trying to mitigate challenges. And I always joke a little bit. Like, I used to go on store tours, and out of 450 stores that I'd visit, I swear 450 of them, the first question that I got when I walked in the door is, "Can you fix my camera system? Can you give me one more camera in this back corner? Can you," like, that was always kind of the first thing out of the gate. So when you're presented with all those challenges, you're oftentimes dedicating a lot of your capital spend and your resources to being reactive. And the best thing that we can do, I think, as leaders, especially as we move forward with this AI world and the technology that's presented to us, and the opportunity that we have, is to pause. And when I say pause, truly sit down and understand the value that your technology can deliver to the organization. And with that, again, start being that, whether you want to call it this or not, a politician, an advocate. Start talking about what you can do, not just with the video itself, but perhaps what you can do with your VMS platforms and your third-party analytics providers, and defining not a large scope, but a narrowed scope and an ROI. So the answer to that question is be diligent, be patient, maybe pause from the chaos in your world a little bit. And I understand and appreciate that. That's not going to go away, but do your best to start strategizing earlier in the year so that when it comes to budget season, you're not in a panic situation trying to demonstrate the value that you can put on the table.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that a little bit, you kind of said it, but I'll maybe go a little bit deeper. Is be prepared. If you go into those conversations and you have looked at all the different facets of the what the system is going to touch and what it's going to do and how it's going to be, you don't have to have all the answers, but just going in there with the, presenting that, hey, we've looked at this, we have everything laid out, we have a plan, we are prepared. I think that's gonna move you to the top of the list, because I think so many people go into these conversations with, hey, like just kind of what you said last minute, hey, I want this fancy new widget, here's kind of why I think I want it, it's kind of hard to articulate. But if you can go in with a clear, concise plan, strategy, and can show that you've considered all of the different silos, I think you're going to be much better positioned to keep this top of mind.
Okay, so Alan, you had just mentioned AI, and I know a lot of companies actually are starting to budget around AI and implementing some of that. So this question that had come in, we're getting a lot of questions within our organization about AI and what we're planning on doing with AI, and it's coming from all different departments as well. So would this fit into that conversation when we're talking about
Absolutely.
solutions like analytics and tying it back into IT and video verification? Does that fit into that AI world to maybe play into that budget as well?
Boy, if I was a CEO, a CFO, any of with the C-suite, I'd probably be going to the boardroom every single week, if not once a month, and asking all the department leaders in the room, what are you doing to maintain pace with what's happening in the AI and just the world of AI? And I would say absolutely holistically, this fits in that conversation. Probably more today than it ever has in the past. And I realize we're going to be tied up against time here, so I'm going to try not to go on too long here. But we lived in this space before, maybe 10 years ago, where we were trying to prove that our ability to do a forensic search on an object and place on a video platform was worth us buying the platform. I'll say stay tuned for the future webinars that we're going to put on, where we get into some of the greater details around this stuff. But AI needs to be unwrapped in video big time. And when I say unwrapped, I mean the bow. There's a bow on it. It's sitting out there. It is part of our everyday world, and we should absolutely, as individuals in LP programs, be inviting our integrators and our manufacturer into conversations on how to put that bow on a package to put in front of your partners and stakeholders in your organization, and make that part of the dialogue.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, with that, we are starting to edge towards the end of time. So, Alan, do you want to go over a couple of key takeaways that people should have taken away, or any of that?
Yeah, I just maybe start with great appreciation for everybody who joined the call today. We know your time is precious. We know that I said it before. We're talking to retail practitioners here, and your world's chaos. I get that. So I just have an incredible gratitude for you spending the hour with us. I encourage you to come back. I think our next one's going to be in a couple months and continue to participate. And just again, key takeaways: proactive LP strategies require internal alignment. We drilled in on that. I think we hit that up many times. IT buy-in, so critical to implementation. Be fearless when you enter those conversations, but be educated and be practical about it. And bring in some of your partners, the likes of a Vector, the likes of experts like Chris and Laura on the call. And then education and collaboration are more effective than sales first approach. So we're here to help you. This is what this is all about with our partners at the LPF. Well, I'm not sitting here making a sales pitch to y'all. This is education and hopefully us giving back to the community at large. Very grateful for that, Julie. But let's make this exactly that, a collaboration, and that's perfect segue. And as always, Julie, we are so honored to be a part of your foundation and the organization and be a part of these calls. We have the pleasure, the distinct pleasure of being the platinum sponsor at the LP Swing for Certification, which is this upcoming Sunday. And I know it's been chaos for you trying to plan for it. I'm going to apologize in advance. I do get to sit on one of those carts and participate in the round. I'm going to tear up the course, and I don't mean that in the sense of a good score. I'm going to tear up the course. So again, thank you for this opportunity, and for everyone who is in attendance here. We really appreciate both the participation and this partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. We love our partnership with Vector, and we're super excited for Sunday. Going to be out at the Dallas Cowboys Golf Club. Hopefully, our weather holds, and we are going to have a great day on the course. And it'll be a little toasty roasty. But with that, we'll go ahead and start closing things out. If you are on today's call and you're interested in getting your loss prevention certified or your loss prevention qualified certifications, or even doing one of our ORC courses, you can leverage that promo code LPF 2026. It's going to be good through the end of this month. It's hard to believe it's already June. But also, if you are LP certified and you are getting those CEUs, which this webinar does qualify for one CEU credit hour. But if you are having to do your recertification every year, lifetime membership waives recertification fees, and that promo code does work on that. So highly beneficial to make sure that you leverage that promo code if you are an LPC. With that, we're also giving away 5 course scholarships to folks that have attended today's call. They are non-transferable, so they are going to be in your email by the end of the day tomorrow. You do have 5 business days to claim those scholarships. Otherwise, they will be turned over to someone else. And, closing out, last but not least, we would be absolutely remiss if we didn't promote our own webinars here. So to get copies or to get notifications about the upcoming webinars, you can sign up using that left QR code for a free guest account. That's going to get you email notifications for all the things LPF, including the webinars that happen. You also could follow us on LinkedIn. We share all of our webinars and signups there as well. And then if you are in the US and you are not already subscribed to the LP magazine, it's free. That's my favorite word, FREE. So you can leverage that QR code right there in the middle to sign up for a free copy of the LP magazine. It'll be sent to your mailbox 4 times a year, or you could always consume it digitally. But Vector, thank you so much for sponsoring today's webinar, bringing great content as always. Alan, Laura, Chris, it was great to have you on with us. And also, we're going to be at NRF here next week. I know Vector's booth is right next to ours, so come visit us if you are there.
Julie, thank you so much. We'll see you on Sunday.
Absolutely. Y'all have a wonderful rest of the week, and we'll see you on the
Thank
next
you
one.
all. All right, bye
Thank you,
bye.
everyone.
Thank you.